we all ought to face up to the reality that you can't love what you can't see. The most powerful way to really design love into a company is to ensure that every manager checks in with each individual on the team individually every week. And it's kind of an acid test for leaders, by the way, because if there's some leaders who go, I think that sounds boring, I don't want to do that, then you would say, well, you shouldn't lead people. Then don't lead people.
Welcome to Unstoppable Brain. I'm Dr. Kyra, and we're here to translate neuroscience into behavior change and the life you want. Today, we welcome Marcus Buckingham, the world's foremost authority on human strengths, performance researcher, and best-selling author of First, Break All the Rules, Love Plus Work, and his latest book, Design Love In. This conversation is radical. It is about counterforcing the disconnection, loneliness, dehumanization that we are living through more and more every month, every day in our modern lives, and really reverse engineering that to infuse love, but not in a corny way. The thing that was really shocking about this conversation is how grounded and data-driven it is, how essential he proves, his thesis proves that love is at the core of everything that we see as abundance, as success. And I really want everybody to learn from him. So without further ado, let's welcome Marcus Buckingham.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You are incredibly impressive. You've written a lot of books. In fact, one of your books was recommended to me years and years ago. I just didn't know you. I didn't know about you. So, as a sort of global voice in this world, I think the most inspiring thing for me was that you have sided on the side of love of all things. And, that takes a lot of bravery in some cases, because there can be a lot of things that people have as opinions about love, a lot of different interpretations. And certainly combining love and business together is novel, I think, So tell me how you got there. Like, how did you arrive at love after all of the other brilliant ideas that you had?
Well, the funny thing is that if you look at the outcomes that we want in business, there isn't much debate about the outcomes. As people, we want to feel productive, we want to feel fulfilled. In terms of the people on our teams, we want them to be productive and loyal and engaged and resilient. In terms of our customers, we want them to be happy and come back. Like, we know what the outcomes are. And we know on some level, all of us, that we can't mandate the outcomes. You can't just achieve those outcomes by setting prices for customers or loyalty programs or paying people in a certain way on your team. Those things work, but only for a short time. If we want really sustainably productive outcomes, on some level, we know that experiences drive behaviors, drive outcomes. So if you want extreme positive outcomes, you've got to create extreme positive experiences. And so if you push on that and go, okay, well, what kind of experiences are we talking about here? If we want extreme positive experiences for ourselves or our customers or the people on our teams, what does that actually look like or sound like? Well, when you actually do focus groups or interviews, and shame on me, because I've been doing this for more than 30 years on
Hmm.
studying extreme positive behaviors, teams, leaders, customers. The word people consistently use, and I kept changing it because I didn't think it was businessy enough, but the word people consistently use is love. They'll say, I love working on that team. I love that brand. I love that company. I love that leader. I love that teacher. The word we use when we try to describe an extreme positive experience, the word we reach for is love. At some point, it was like hitting me over the head with a big stick going, stop, Marcus, stop changing the word. Stop changing it to joy or engagement or satisfaction or even strengths. People aren't using, not to say that strengths and engagement and joy aren't good things, but the words people actually use, the word we use is love. Now, we use it confusingly for I love that outfit and I love my mom. So it looks initially like we're just being careless. But truth be told, if you're going to do proper research, if you're going to do proper primary qualitative research, if people use a word to describe the experience that drives their behavior, that drives their outcomes, and the word is love, then you got to sit with it and marinate in that word love and go, rather than just dismiss it and try to change it, I found that after it was just like, hey, just instead be curious about it. What do people
Yeah.
mean when they use that word love? Why do we pick that word to describe extreme positive experiences? And that's really what became the book, was a sort of a 5-year effort of, well, what the heck do people mean? And how might we design it in? Because it's the most I mean, it's the most powerful force in business.
And was there resistance in you that was causing you personally to, not see it or not face it for a little while? Because you say it kept coming up in your research. And if you had no bias whatsoever, one would assume that you would just be like, oh, that's the word. So what process did you have to go through and biases maybe from business or, conditioning to overcome that to be able to see what you were seeing?
Um, Thank you for that question. I think some of it might be my upbringing. I'm British. I'm a researcher. I'm a scientist by trade and training, and it just felt squishy, I think. And I probably so some part of it might have been my upbringing, just going, I can't say love. I mean, come on. Some part of it might have been pragmatic, that, well, if you're going to come out and go, design loving experiences, lead lovingly, then there's going to be a lot of eye rolling. And the business world is going to go, oh, come on.
Mm,
And so perhaps it was a changing of the language to make it more palatable to the business community, which is not a good, I'm not saying that's a good explanation, but that might be one of the explanations. Um, and I think for me, I had to go through my own pain around it. I mean, I built a company um, over a 10-year period and sold it in 2017 to a very, very large Fortune 100 company that I thought was the right thing to do at the time for a variety of reasons. But very quickly, when you build a company, and there's a lot of love in it. There's just love everywhere. You've got people love the product, and then people love each other, and then they get their family members to join, and everyone's just, it's the customers, the first ones you get. Gosh, you got to love on them. So, as any entrepreneur knows, when there's a lot of stress when you build a company, but there's a lot of love, and it becomes like you're almost swimming in it. And when I sold my company, I actually start the book this way because it was such a wake up call. I I woke up after 6 months of selling my company, and I had an earn-out, so I was still working for this much larger place, and the love had gone. The love had died, and it wasn't the bigger companies' fault. It's just that when you have a machine of a company of that size, and not every large company does this, but this particular company was a machine that really just focused on other things, KPIs, compliance, process, and when you have most of your attention taken up with those things, there's no attention left for love. And as the poet Pablo Neruda reminds us, love dies from neglect. It doesn't die from being killed. It
mm,
dies from forgetting. And
mm.
we just forgot about it. And I woke up one day and it was like the love had died. And it
Yeah.
was a totally different feeling. So for me, it was like, Marcus, you've you've turned your eyes away from, and you could argue for the last 20 years I've turned my eyes and my attention away from the thing that people kept bopping me over the head with. And so it took all of those things to kind of take off the biases and go, no, when people say I love working for their team, the word they mean is love, and you should interrogate that word.
Mm.
Don't dismiss it. And when you did dismiss it, Marcus, it vanished. And that's a different workplace. It's not a terrible workplace. It functions, but it was a different place. Shame on me, you know?
Yeah, we lost the spirit. So then how do we combine things that are so charged, such as the concept of love and money, because people get salaries at work. They're working for money and there's so much confusion. I live in Silicon Valley up here. And so, I kind of understand this mentality that is so pervasive of I was hearing your words about selling your company from the voice of the masses of like, "Well, wouldn't you be happy? Because then you have money," you know? And so who cares if the love went away, and why is that so bad? So just counterpoint the mass consciousness overvaluing money over love, for example. How do you square that?
Well, love isn't a luxury, right?
Mm,
Love is oxygen. So
yes.
your day wakes up with you. We often think of our day as our enemy, and it comes burdened with to-do lists from yesterday. And our job when you wake up on a Tuesday is to barrel through the day and try to, I mean, the word we use is get through the day. I've got to get through the day. But actually, if you change your mindset, your day is actually trying to show you thousands of different threads. And a thread is an activity or a situation or an interaction or an email or a phone call or a task. And every single one of them, as you know, has energy in it. And for no good reason other than the uniqueness of you or the clash of your chromosomes and your weird, unique humanness, you get energy out of different activities. Even if you're 10 of you are in the same job, you're emergency room nurses, and you're all really good, but you don't love the same thing about that job. That job's got many, many threads. Some of them are pretty emotionally neutral, perhaps. They're black, they're green, they're gray, they're white. But some of the threads in your working day are red. There are activities that you love. Before you do it, you find yourself looking forward. While you're doing it, time flies by. When you're done, you kind of want to do it again. Like they are energetic. And no one really tells you that, but activities themselves are energetic. And so, in a weird way, your day's waking up with you and going, hey, I'm going to throw thousands of threads at you. Some of them are red. And the only person who's not colorblind to your red threads is you. So, we don't use the word love this way very often, but love is a decoder. It
Mm,
decodes what your energy sources are in a day. And we talk about, find a job you love, and it's all about kind of mission and find your why. And I mean, there's some wisdom to that, but really it's like, no, don't find the why, find the what. Like, what are the particular activities in a day that, for no good reason other than you, invigorate you, energize you? When you're done with them, you're not drained. You're not like, thank goodness that's over. It's like you kind of weirdly almost want to do it again.
mm,
Well, if you think about your work that way, it doesn't matter how much money you have. There is a skill, a life skill, which I would call the life skill of mover. You got to move through your day and derive the psychological nourishment you need to keep moving. That's health. That's psychological health. If you have all the money in the world and none of that, you die. It's not like I'm so wealthy I don't have to get out of bed, but it's like, I think it was Grace Slick who said, no matter how comfortable your bed is, sooner or later you have to get out of it. So we have to get out of bed and move through a Tuesday. Well, the way that healthy humans do that, psychologically healthy humans, is we know which activities in that day are going to nourish us. And the only person who knows what those are is us. So
mm,
and beautifully, love is a precursor to contribution. So we know biochemically, when you're doing an activity that you love, your brain chemistry changes. We've got these elevated levels, as you know, of oxytocin, norepinephrine, anandamide, serotonin, which we think is basically broadening or opening your mind to new information, new inputs, new connections, new. So your brain on love, your brain doing an activity that you love is you at your smartest. So no matter how much money you have, or no matter how much performance and productivity has been demanded of you by a company, love is the precursor to all of that. You will have people doing safer, better, more creative, more productive work when they can figure out what their red threads are. And maybe
mm,
just one last thought on that. The data out of the Mayo Clinic suggests you don't need a red quilt. They were actually studying nurses who were resilient during the pandemic and trying to figure out why did some nurses sort of crack and some nurses build their resilience. And they found a few things, but one of them was these nurses who were resilient had 20% red threads, not 100, not 50. If it was like, if you could find 20% of the activities in your day that you say you love, little activities, little moments, interactions, but 20% seemed like a threshold. You get below 20% and all sorts of things start devolving for you, but you get above 20% and it's not like 40% is twice as good as 20. It's like a threshold. Gosh, you get above 20% red threads in your day and you're a different human. And I think that part of the point of writing the Design Love In book was to rehabilitate the fact that love isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for extreme productive outcomes anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, part of the point of the book is we live in a transactional world that functions. You live in Silicon Valley. Well, there's a lot of companies in Silicon Valley that function, but on some deep level, and we could point to some of them even today, they're broken. They
Mhm.
are broken
Mhm.
and they function, but they don't flourish. And we don't want a world like that.
No,
So I'm
absolutely
not
not.
being idealistic, but it's like,
Yeah, I don't want a company like that. So, in my being a CEO myself of a company, we've gone through maturation stages and different things like that. And, there was a stage where I was very codependent and, trying to just make everybody happy and things like that. I think I've made a couple good choices. One is that we opened the week with appreciation circle where you check in on your weekend and then you appreciate somebody else for the team. We usually limit it to one so that, kind of gets spread around and it's meaningful and you appreciate them for what they did for you or, who they are or all of those things. And that really fostered and sown a lot of, inter-employee love, I would say, for each other. Where we struggle, and this is something that I wanted to, kind of just get your working mind on, is that we are remote and we don't get together, but, all of us, but once a year in person. We kind of do like little groups here and there, but I find that in that environment, it's hard to see how people are feeling. It's hard to really, because they can mask. It's kind of like COVID all over again. Everybody's online and that kind of thing. And so I'm wondering, how do I think about that as a leader to imbue the organization with more love? Because I'm aware that people, either because, they're not jiving with their manager or whatever, that they're feeling that they're not loved or that they're not appreciated. And then how far do we go without verging into, manipulation or codependency, some of these adjacencies to love that can get unhealthy?
yeah. Um, well, to begin with, we all ought to face up to the reality that you can't love what you can't see.
Mm,
And so attention is the cousin of love. If you don't pay attention to another person, there's no love there because you can't see the person. If you can't see the person, you can't love the person. You can't love what you can't see. I mean, you don't love all that you see, but you can't love what you can't see because then it becomes an abstraction or the person becomes an abstraction. So love lives in detail in the gritty idiosyncrasy of another human. I mean, or indeed the gritty idiosyncrasies of an experience at the restaurant or at a bank or at a airline. Like we hook on to spiky things, and when you can't see things, when you don't have real experiences, when you don't interact with people, it all becomes a blur, it becomes opaque, and
mm,
love slides off that. So, so to begin with, we would have to say, well, attention is it's a discipline in a company. And so to begin with, I would say that the most powerful way to really design love into a company is to ensure that every manager checks in with each individual on the team individually every week, one on one, for 15 minutes. And they just ask two questions. How do you feel about last week? What you working on this week? How do you feel about last week? What you working on this week? And you don't do that 3 times a year. You do it 52 times a year.
mm,
And it's kind of an acid test for leaders, by the way, because if there's some leaders that go, I think that sounds boring. I don't, I don't want to do that. Then then you would say, well, you shouldn't leave people. Then don't leave people. Because the best leaders are super intrigued by how the person feels about last week and how the person is focused on this week and how I can help. That's
mm,
the raw material for leadership excellence. And what's beautiful about that is it doesn't, from all of our data anyway, it doesn't seem to matter what the modality is. So you could do that in text, you could do that on the phone, you can do that in the car, you can do that in person. Um, it's the frequency of attention that matters, frequent, light touch attention that matters, not the modality. So on one level, I would say, hey, um, systematize attention, frequent, light touch attention. Why? Because it's the cousin of love. And doesn't mean every single conversation is going to be amazing. It just means you're going to be paying light touch, individualized attention to the person and the work and the person and the work, and people oscillate in the course of a year. Things go up and they go down, and the only thing that we're looking for as humans is what one of the things I wrote about in the book is love is made up of 5 distinct feelings.
Mm.
One of those feelings is harmony. I want to be in harmony. That doesn't mean that I have to completely empathize with everything my people are going through as a leader, but I need to know what they're going through as a leader. Wherever I might want to move them to, I've got to meet them before I can move them. So
Yeah.
so the attention part is the meeting part. But the other thing I might share is that once a year, probably for your team's not enough. When you bring people together, the express point of bringing people together these days is answering people's question, what am I a part of? And how do I add value to the thing I'm a part of? And
Mhm.
that's really difficult to do if you're not together physically,
Yeah.
where you as the CEO would be able to go, why will we win? We will win because we are special as a team. And what's special about us is this. And then you can describe vividly what our edge is, what is our advantage, and what makes this team distinctive. And you'll have so many like beautiful examples of it. And you can, I mean, every leader is different, but you might have a nickname, you might have a song, you might have a discipline, you might have a routine or a ritual, like the appreciation thing that you do. But to do that in person together, that bonds people to a vibe. Sorry to say it that way, but people want to know what little platoon they're a part of.
Mhm.
And when you're bringing people together, you should say to yourself in your own mind's eye, the only reason to bring people together is what am I a part of, and how do I add value to it? If we come together and we do that, and I can see my place in this super cool team, that's a beautiful thing. We humans, for 50,000 years, we've thrived in little platoons. Things like the
Yeah.
Roman Legion or the Catholic Church even have sort of systematized little platoons. And when
Yeah.
we get too far away from that, we we end up, I wrote about it with my co-author Ashley Goodall in a book, Nine Lies About Work. That you join a company, but the sun, the moon, and the stars of the company um, is the little team that you're then a part of. So
Mhm.
in your company, I would say, not that not that you wanted my advice, but um, you should probably bring them together a little bit more frequently, and then have an express purpose. It's not like team building. We stand for this, and your place in this is this. Anything you can do to affect those two outcomes is like,
I love it. Yeah, thank you, and I was soliciting your advice, so thank you for indulging me. On the love experiences, I got curious about, harmony. Do you wanna say anything more about that? And then please walk us through the other 4, if you don't mind.
yeah. So the 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 focus of the book was to go, how do you get? I mean, because you think, well, why is love the most powerful force in business?
Mhm.
Well, it's the most powerful force because it drives human behavior of customers and employees. So if you think about it that way, the 2 most powerful questions you can ask as a leader is, do we have more people loving working here tomorrow than today? And do we have more customers loving our company tomorrow than today? Not every decision should go through those lenses, but if you are investing in a company and you don't know the answer to those 2 questions, which interestingly Wall Street doesn't, so it's just guessing. Like, are there more people in love with Southwest Airlines today than tomorrow? You know what's funny? Nobody knows. Meta, is there more people in love with Meta working there today than yesterday? Nobody knows. And yet those are the things that will determine the future value of Meta or of Southwest Airlines or Starbucks or fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So those two outcomes are really just a bunch of employees going, I love that company, or a bunch of customers going, I love that company. So in the book, I just reverse engineered that and go, well, how'd you get there? How'd you get them there? Was it magic? It turns out when you reverse engineer, I love that. I love that. you reverse engineer it, you find these 5 feelings, which are sequential, not hierarchical. They're not like Maslow's hierarchy. They're sequential, though, in the sense of they're like plates of armor. Most of us go through life armor plated against the difficulties of life. And and so these 5 feelings, think of them as like 5 plates of armor that you got to take off in order to get someone to finally open their heart enough to go, I love that. The first is control. The second is harmony. The third is significance. The fourth is warmth of others. And the fifth is growth. So, very briefly, control, if you think about a person taking off one plate of armor, the first is when humans have an experience, they don't want to feel powerless. They don't want to feel lost. They want to go, what is this world you're asking me to move into, and how does it work? Who are you for me? So anything that a company does, anything that a restaurant does, anything that a bank does, anything that an airline does to go, I am this for you. Here's the world. Here's how it works. Here are the tools. We lean in and we take off one plate of armor because we feel like we have control, not control over the other person, but control over self. It's efficacy or agency. Harmony is, does this experience know what I'm feeling and does it care? We know that some nurses give painless injections, and we know how they do that. Nothing to do with the needle. It's because some nurses, right before they plunge the needle in, will say some version of, this is going to hurt a little bit. I'll try and make it hurt as little as I can. And just in saying what you're feeling, the patient seems to feel like the pain is shared, and they rate the pain lower. And you can see examples of this all over the place, where when an experience communicates, I know what you're feeling and I care about it. We humans, because the opposite of harmony is jarring. And it's like when you walk into a restaurant or a store and you know that all the employees hate each other, but you can't figure out how you know that, but you know you kind of want to lean out because it's
Yeah.
jarring. Or when you get a note from let's say you want your physician to know what you're feeling and care about it, but you get some sort of note from the physician which is clinical and utilitarian, and you lean out because it's jarring. Significance is, you know my story and you care about it. So any experience where I am shown that you understand that I'm a unique person going through a story. I have a front story, which is what's going on with me today. I have a backstory in terms of my unique talents or strengths or history. And you're going to pay attention to that and maybe even change some of the stuff that might happen to me because of that. That's individualization. That's significance. The opposite of significance, of course, is unseen. Now, you don't want to start with that. You don't want to start with, that's why these things are sequential. You don't start with, hey, it depends. Hey, it depends on you. Weirdly, if you checked into a hotel and someone was like, hey, look, I don't know how we check in, depends on you, you'd lean out. You want control. So that begins with, how do I check into this hotel? Tell me what this hotel stands for. Tell me how it works. We want rules. We like rules. So you don't start with significance, but at some point in your journey to removing these plates of armor, you go, do you know that I'm unique in any way? And can you share that with me or show that to me? Warmth of others is, humans don't like going through experiences by themselves. We hate being isolated. The opposite of warmth of others is isolation. We hate that. So at some point, we will start looking around going, who is with me and how can they help? Who's with me in this experience and how can they help? Restaurants do, in general, a terrible job of this, in that we've created, this isn't a horrible example, but it's not devastating, but most restaurants in this country, sit-down restaurants, are one handoff after another. The person you make the reservation with is not the person who seats you. The hostess who seats you is not the person you can order your food from. The person who brings the water is not who can order it. The person you order the food from is not the person who brings the food. It's one handoff after another, and that's efficient, but it's unloving, because what you're doing is you're sitting there at the table and you're thinking, no one's with me. No one's here to help. I don't know who's got me. It's my waiter, but I haven't seen the waiter because the person who brought the food isn't the waiter, they're the food runner. But we've built a world where we don't cultivate the warmth of others.
And my observation is that that got really bad from before COVID to after COVID. The depersonalization of humans, maybe because we just practiced so much on tech and people were just these kind of 2D figures, right? I wonder if we've lost names. I wonder if we've lost personal knowing of others, or whether people have become objects to one another.
Well, I think the data would suggest that you're exactly right. We have become depersonalized. I mean, by the way, the last one is growth because love is a forward-facing emotion. So we lean into any experience that makes us even slightly more capable tomorrow than we were today. Whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a bank, whether it's an airline, anything that we can do. There's this lovely link between love and learning and loyalty. And most companies just miss it completely. But of course, you can't start there. Can't start with growth because I'm not ready for it. I'm armored still.
Does growth mean that the employee feels like there's opportunity to grow either in roles, responsibility, or salary, or anything that, or is it not that superficial? Is it more satisfaction in growth or something like that?
The way that I was describing it, because sort of consistently came up, is when you got people saying love that, the feeling right before that was this experience or this leader or this team or this company seems to understand that life moves ever forward. And tomorrow, I am going to have to wake up and face it again. I am never done. I'm never finished. And the company understands that. So, on one level, it might be, will you teach me some more skills? So,
Mm,
yes, but it doesn't have to be some formal leadership development program. It could just be the understanding through what you do with a particular employee that I know that any small thing I can do to help you feel a little more capable tomorrow. It could be giving you financial advice along with your paycheck. It could be teaching you in this day and age, giving you deliberately some help with AI to help you might know how they could augment the work that you're doing. The idea of the world is changing and the antidote to change is learning. So we as a company are constantly thinking about that. Even, and I quote this in the book because it's an extreme example, Lululemon, you walk into Lulu, I know their stock price is struggling these days, and I hope the new Heidi, the new CEO, is going to do great work. But you walk into a Lulu and it's filled with pictures of ex-employees all over the walls. It's the only company I've seen that does this. They call them ambassadors, but most of them are people who used to work as educators inside the company. They left. And then rather than the company going, and in many companies, this is true, right? You leave the company and you're dead to the company. You're gone. Lulu does such a good job of going, no, no, no. You were a work in progress, and part of your progress was us. And then you left, and some of you went on to open a studio or open a yoga class or start a running shoe company. And we'll take a beautiful black and white photograph of you and put it on the wall.
mm,
And now you're an ambassador for us. And we explicitly understand that you're going to keep growing, even if you're not with us anymore. And we will, for many of you, we will not just turn you, not invisible. We will actually highlight you on our walls. What a beautiful thing to show any new person joining Lululemon, that we
mhm.
see you as a full and growing human, because every human is a full and growing human. And anything a company can do to go, no, I totally get it. You are in the process of becoming, and some part of that will be with us. And we'll
Nice.
give you lots of small things and large things that will help you build that capability. So it's a psychological idea of like, tomorrow, are you more capable than today? Will we help you with that? Yes, we will. If some part of that is I'm leaving, then we won't be cynical about that.
Yep.
We will honor the fact that you're moving to some other experience. And the best companies will maintain a relationship with those kinds of humans over time. Because who knows? Because who knows that they might actually prove to be somebody you could rehire or reconnect with on the client side. But also because that's our moral commitment to humans. They keep learning and growing. They don't die. I mean, in the end, but they don't die when they just leave our company. It means all those things.
I have a youth that I had a youth program years ago, and he grew up and did his own youth program in Oakland, California, so works with inner city youth, and he has this T-shirt, which I love. It says, "I love to see my people doing well." And it's that broadcast of that growth, that recognition, and I also, cherish that in terms of the people who matriculate out of my company. I don't hang on to people, I just say, I want you to have the best possible training here and also the possible experience here. And then, it speaks volumes if we trained you right or we trained you well, that you can thrive in a future environment and be able to iterate on your career in a good way. So I want successful for all of our people who have passed through our digits, if you will.
And that's a way to lead lovingly.
Yeah, I do.
It's we humans, what is the proper definition of love? And we haven't really talked about that, but love doesn't mean chocolates and kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it does mean that, or can mean that. But when people use the word love, the definition that I landed on in the book was it's the deep and unwavering commitment to the flourishing of a human. And the idea is that, of course, every one of us has that feeling inside of us that we've got something that we want to express. I mean, we might want to be successful and buy a house and earn lots of money, and I don't know, but we also go, I want a life in which I can express me. I don't want to get to 95 and look back and go, I lived a second-rate version of someone else's life. I didn't what? So that is it's a universal feeling of I want what's inside to come out. And so any experience that we bump into, no matter how trivial, like I love those shoes, or how meaningful, like I love that mentor, or anything in between, any experience that allows us to express some unique part of us in small ways and large, the word we instinctively attach to that experience is love. That's what love is. It's, to say it another way, it's the feeling of becoming more fully yourself over time. Anything that lets us do that. I love that outfit because when I put it on, I just feel magic. Or I love that song because it speaks to me in some way. Just, I don't know. When I listen to it, I open up just a little bit. I open up just a little bit. I become just a little bit more like me over time. A little bit, a little bit. That's love. And what you're describing about that t-shirt or your company is when you have a mindset for your company of we want you to feel more fully yourself over time. By the way, on sometimes that will be, I love you, you're fired. This job is not allowing you to be more fully yourself. I don't know yet what more fully yourself looks like, but I don't think it's here. Which is why we have that word, tough love. Sometimes
It's a
the
hard
toughest
one.
conversations, right, are with somebody who goes, you might not want to hear this, but I promise you, you are closing up. You are narrowing in this situation right here. And it's my job
Yeah,
to get you out of it, actually.
yeah.
Um, so when you have that orientation that love is helping a person feel more fully themselves over time, and anything we do, little or big, that helps that, um, that is leading lovingly. And what we know from data, of course, is that's incredibly smart business sense. And that a
Mhm.
ton of the stuff that's happening right now in big companies, a lot of them in Silicon Valley, is to your point, going back to your point about COVID and stuff, we see people as these two-dimensional. It's there's a lot of companies that have decided that it makes good business sense to see people as simply a resource from which to extract things.
That's getting worse as we think about, AI. So we're recording this at a time when the sort of the cracks in the AI dam of how companies are experiencing AI truly, in terms of there was phases where they thought, "Okay, I need less people because I have AI," right? And then there was this whole replace idea of replacing people headcount with AI, and then there's this kind of augmented idea of I keep my head count, but I make everybody more productive with AI. And now it almost comes down to a calculation, which is unfortunate, that I'm hearing from Wall Street and various other places around is a human more expensive or the compute of AI more expensive as we see token pricing go up, be overwhelming, and also, some failed experiments, if you will, at scale with these larger companies that thought they could just, make humans obsolete and replace everybody with AI. So what is your take on AI love, this depersonalization thing that we're experiencing in work, and how do we re-inject love with that in mind?
So I have a nuanced and dynamic, based upon how fast things are changing, view of AI.
We won't hold you
Um,
to.
yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
let's talk next week. And
Yeah,
No,
totally.
I think I actually think this particular frame of reference isn't gonna change very much, in the next 100 years, um, because it's based on 2 fundamentals. Um, can we love AI? If I just defined AI I'm sorry, if I just defined love as any experience which helps us feel more fully ourselves over time, then you can say, "I love those shoes because when I put them on, I just feel I don't know, I've got a spring in my step and I feel more fully myself." In which case, could you love AI? If you've got an AI agent or, some partner of yours that's an AI partner that helps you, be smarter, save time, be wiser about pattern recognition, or helps you accelerate your contribution in the world, can you turn around and go, "I love AI"? Yes, because you use the word augment. Um, yeah, elevate, accelerate, whatever other verb you want to use. Can we turn around and go, I love AI? And is that legit? Yeah, you can, and it is legit. The question that's more interesting is companies put so when companies put AI in to help a particular human become more fully themselves over time, is that a loving thing to do? I mean, that's the big question with AI, by the way. If you think about
Yeah,
the two most powerful questions for a company to ask, do more people love working here tomorrow than today? And do more customers love us tomorrow than today? Those are the two big questions for future value of a business. Whether you're
yeah.
investing in SpaceX or whether you're investing in Starbucks, those are the same two questions, notwithstanding whatever Elon says, but those two questions drive so much the value of a business. Then the question is, when you put AI in, do you get more or less? When you put AI into an experience, do you get more love or less love? And
Mm,
because it's a huge driver of business behavior, like love, that's not an esoteric question. It's like when you
yeah,
put more AI in, do you get more people saying, I love working here, or I love being a customer of this company? If you put AI in as an augmenting tool that helps a person be more themselves over time, I think you could argue strongly that it will increase the love in the system because you get more people going, I'm doing more, I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm, and there's ways that it could be misused, but that instrumentation, if you like, for AI, you can see that working for humans in a loving way. The bigger question, I think, is the other side of it. Not can you love it, but can it love you?
mm.
And there we bump into some problems because many, many companies are, of course, putting AI in as the way in which they mediate experiences for employees and for customers. It's the AI, if you put it in for your customer service, if you replace all your customer service people with an AI bot, does that make customers go more likely to go, I love that company, or less likely to go, I love that company?
I'm on the side of the no, less love because I every time I hear, "Hi, I'm," insert cute name, "a AI bot to help you," whatever, I'm like, "Representative." I just override immediately because 'cause I'm like, I just know that my issue is too complicated for the AI to resolve, and I even wrote to my own AI company and got an AI bot to respond to my question. And because I was stuck in computer mode, which was like burning, tokens, it was a setting that they couldn't turn off. And I still haven't heard from them. And I'm like, I want to just delete. I mean, as much as I have an install base of all my knowledge in this thing, I want to just switch over to a different AI.
So yes, I mean, why are you on the no side? Why do you think experiences that are mediated through AI make the company worse and less valuable? And by the way, I don't see this discussed much at all, but it should be. It
Mm.
should be like when we put AI in, are we actually destroying the value of our business by breaking the experience of the customer? If you unpack that, one part of it is obvious. Of course, it's going to reduce the amount of love in the system. Of course, it will. Why? Because AI, remember, we defined love as the commitment to the flourishing of a human. AI doesn't know what flourishing is. It never can and never will. No matter of AGI will ever have it will never feel shame. It will never feel humiliation. It will never feel risk. It will never feel empathy. And stop with the fakery of the empathy. Don't even try with that. It makes me have less love for your company. And if you can't understand that, that doesn't mean it's not true. It means you don't understand that. It means you haven't paused love carefully enough. So when we put AI into most experiences, AI is a terrible experience maker.
Mm.
And yet if you think about what drives the success of a business, you're building loving experiences. Well, AI doesn't do that very well. It doesn't destroy it always, but your example does destroy it. But it's not very good at it because it doesn't know what flourishing is. So it's like, oh, stop it. Stop making it try to do something it can't do. Stop it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, AI wrote all of my performance reviews. Okay, well, that you might love it for that reason, but imagine being on the receiving end of an AI written performance review. Now I'm on the receiving end of, well, it doesn't know me. Now I don't even know that you, my manager, know me because you put AI in the middle of it. It's like, oh my gosh. So, in terms of can it love us, the answer clearly is no. So, let's be honest and go no.
Love
Then,
that.
what do we do to mitigate that? I think the only reason why what you could do is AI, as you know, is an optimization engine. That's all it is. You could optimize it for anything. Could we optimize it for those five feelings? Could you try to design the AI experience so that it was optimized for control, harmony, significance, warmth of others' growth?
Interesting.
Well, that's not interesting. That's
Mhm.
interesting to go, I wonder, not that we would be fake with people, we would totally be straight up with them that I am absolutely an AI agent, but I do know enough about the human condition to know that there's a sequence to you leaning in, and I'm not blind to that sequence. And part of that sequence is trust, of course. I'm gonna tell you that I'm an AI completely, and I'm going to be optimized to help you feel control, harmony, significance, warmth of others' growth. If you did that very intentionally with your AI experience design, you might be able to create feelings in which people leaned in a way that perhaps they don't get all the way to going, love that, but they don't stop the way that you did and go, I'm shutting this puppy down. At the
Yeah.
moment, I don't hear anybody talking about this at all. And
Yeah.
instead, I just see it as part of, a bit like you, I think. It's part of, we are trying to extract as much value as we can from a customer or an employee experience. And in so doing, we are putting ourselves in recovery immediately. The only
Yeah.
benefit, I suppose, is that everyone seems to be doing it. I haven't really seen any company that's trying to design AI mediated experiences lovingly.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone do
Yeah.
that.
Well, a good friend of mine, Dr. Jim Doty, who was a neurosurgeon at Stanford, died a little over a year ago. And he was trying to deal with AI that is compassionate. So kind of along the same lines as your work. And I think besides him, we lost him. So unfortunately, somebody who would have created that has departed. And I'm really my intentions both for our users, because we have a behavior change app that's designed to help with your brain rewiring, habit formation, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I did in the design is to design love into the social feed because I saw that social media in general is very predatory. It's like a cage match, the way that the tools are designed, performative tools and showing you all your metrics and so you perform to it more, the rage algorithms, all of that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting live experiment because we have people coming back for love, to exchange love, to give love, to receive love, and different people are at different levels of capacity, I would say, to love other people versus just coming to get instead of give. There's certain segments of people that need versus can offer, and so it's somewhat of a love exchange, if you will.
I love that. I mean, it is a very interesting time to force. Look, we humans flourish only under one set of conditions when there's a lot of love around.
Mm.
We know that. So,
Perfect.
in a world of increasing AI, the barreling train down the track, for people like you or me or others to go, how do we make sure that train doesn't crush the love? That is an existential question, regardless of like what would it do to jobs and unemployment, like all of that's sort of interesting to see play out. But what's I think uh, im- most important, but also from a business standpoint, most imperative is going. You, value is business value is linked to how much love is in the system. And AI is not good at love. It's a B plus, even if you really optimize for it, breaking it apart for. can AI help me do my work and step into me fully myself? Yes. Okay, so that usage, very good. As a creator by itself of experiences where you are being contained and handled by an AI, not very good. So if we know that a world which is increasingly loveless is a less productive world, we all need to kind of raise our voices to go, well, look, love is a very powerful, the most powerful driver of productive human behavior. We better not create loveless environments because then we're destroying value. We got to express it in the world of Wall Street, the language of Wall Street. We've got to express it in terms of the investor would understand. You put AI in, you're destroying value. You know you're destroying value, right? Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, let's unpack that because you're
Mhm.
changing the behavior and the intimacy that you want with your customers. By the way, you can do that for a short time. God bless you.
I want all of the Fortune 500 to listen to you. I want all of them to follow what you're saying because that would be the biggest shift in human flourishing would be to target the workplace with love. I really think that what you're pointing to is so important right now as we depersonalize, as we become lonely, as we become disconnected, even though we're paradoxically hyper connected with
But you're right.
technology.
It is a paradox, but it is, I mean, if you, one of the things I put in the book is an experience continuum. And on the far right of that continuum, you've got loving experiences, which help you flourish. On the far left, you've got exploitative experiences, which of course none of us want. But the question is like, where do we live? We we live in I call it a transactional world. We're living in a world in which we as patients, the most interesting thing for us as a patient in a hospital is how much of our affliction is covered. The most interesting thing for us as a student is what's our GPA that can be marketed to a college. The most interesting thing for us as an employee is our KPIs or our, I mean, we're not even called employees, right? We're called full-time equivalents.
Oh,
So
jeez.
everywhere you look, we're sort of reduced to financial elements of an equation. And that's not terrible. It's just inhuman and not productive, like so not productive. So that's why the second chapter of the book is the business case for love. I mean, I might be one of the few people who can, in a very rigorous data-based way, in business language, explain why love has such sustainable business value. So that's why I wanted to start with the data, actually,
Yeah.
because you could bang on about love all you want, but until you go, oh no, if you want to change human behavior, on a scale of 1 to 5, if you got 5 being strongly agree to the quality of an experience and 1 being strongly negative, I think I might be one of the few people that can go, there's a J curve to the relationship between experiences and outcomes. And if you're moving customer experiences from a 3 to a 4, or employee experiences from a 3 to a 4, it doesn't change their behavior at all. It's only when you do something as dramatic as moving something from a 4 to a 5, and
Mm,
you have customers and employees going, I love that experience, which is what a 5 is. 5 is love. It's only when you do that that you get change in behavior. So anything we're doing, like all the stuff we do about net promoter score, which is just a terrible metric. Um, 4s with 5s, we put 4s with 5s, and we call it top 2 box. And well, a lot of the practices of businesses, when they try to understand what customers and employees really feel about the business, um, based on the idea that there's a linear relationship between experiences and outcomes, and it isn't. It's curvilinear. It's a
mm,
J curve, which
mhm,
means if you want to change behavior, I'm sorry, you gotta focus on the 5s, the customers and the employees who love you, because like you doesn't get you anything, enjoy you, learned a lot from you, respected you, doesn't get you anything, gets you nothing in
mm,
terms of behavior change. So we
mm,
so for us to go as business leaders, don't pay attention to signals that don't matter. I mean, let's just be utilitarian about this. Pay attention to signals that matter. Well, what signals matter in business? The ones that drive behavior. Which signals drive behavior? Extreme positive experiences drive behavior, which in the common language is love. If you don't understand that, dear Wall Street, it's because you don't understand data. It's not because you don't understand love. It's because you don't understand the J curve, the curvilinear relationship between experiences and outcomes. So that's, sorry to bang on, but that's why let's start the book with data, because otherwise we're not going to get any change. There's a whole bunch of
mm.
people running businesses that think they know from data, and they don't. And
Yeah.
I mean, from an investor standpoint, you should go, well, you're fired. You're all fired because you don't actually understand what drives customer or employee behavior. Love does. Let's discuss that.
I think, we're in derivative markets too, which is that, you have the core experience driving the value fueled by love. You have this magical layer that the brand is loved, that the company's doing well, it's performing well on these metrics, that KPIs, that kind of thing. And then you have the distillation of being a CEO to down to something so superficial, which is shareholder value. And shareholder value is tertiary, quaternary away from the core fire of the love that you speak. And so I can see how it's it's not a feature, it's not a bug, it's a feature that you would miss the essential fire part of that equation, and just everything becomes this shell and this mystery, and it's not that mysterious, it's human caring at the center of everything that is successful.
Well, in a sense, it's customer or employee intimacy. I mean, look, I wrote about this in the book. I was with the CHROs of the top 30 companies in the US, top 30 biggest employers in the US about a year and a half ago. And I just showed them that J curve data,
Mm.
or the relationship between experiences and outcomes, and then said, when you unpack the fives, it's like fours are threes are twos are ones, fives are just different. When you unpack the fives, the word's love. They couldn't say the word. They couldn't. In the end, they came around to be able to say it in reference to customers. We kind of want our customers to love us, but they couldn't say it about their people. We don't
Mhm.
want to love our people because we might have to fire them. We can't love them. That's ridiculous. Who says that? So it's funny. It's that you're right. We're so far into shareholder value, we've gotten away from being able to even say the word that is
Mhm.
the fire that really drives the productivity and the creativity, the resilience of your people, and therefore your firm, or the love that people feel, because who you are on the inside is who you are on the outside. So the love that people feel, that customers pick up on, all the stuff that would drive repeat behavior, advocacy, purchase, all the stuff you want from your customers. And these CHROs couldn't say the word, let alone figure out how to activate it. So you're right. It's
Yeah.
the point for me of writing the book was to rehabilitate. I mean, was to rehabilitate the word love, because it's incredibly valuable driver of so many things. You go to the business schools, go to Stanford, try to find in the Stanford Business School, try to find a class on the most powerful force in business. There's not one. Go to INSEAD, go to Wharton, Harvard, where you can't find a class in the business schools that takes the most powerful force in business seriously. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And I mean, I picked Harvard Business Review Press as my publisher because I was like, I need backup.
Power of the H. I've got that in my life too. It's powerful. Yeah, yeah. 'Cause you need tailwinds, you need friends, you need allies, you need validators. I think, my little sector of the world, I'll just throw this out there, is about habenula. I study that a lot, in the brain, and basically what it is a failure detector. If we think that we're failing at something, or going to fail at something, or we're disappointed, frustrated, those kinds of adjacencies, then it kills our motivation to keep trying. And you get this kind of, quiet quitting, you get this kind of low productivity, learned helplessness. I think that, has come through in your work as well. And so it is the mechanism in our brain that is the disempowerment mechanism. So love, of course, conversely, through oxytocin, GLP-1, which then turns this area off. And then you have rewards, like it's called the anti-reward pathway, the habenula. And when you turn it off, then the reward pathway can flow with good feelings and love, and all those kind of brain areas can wake up. Otherwise, it is sitting like a wet blanket on top of your dopamine and your serotonin. And so if you combine all of our statements here and all what you and I know, that means that you are coming in the most powerful way to neutralize this habenula, because this belonging, this meaning, this, being seen and being allowed to grow or recognized for growth, all of those components of good regard for our humanity, is the missing piece for the rampant mental health illness that the epidemic that we have right now, the rampant loneliness epidemic that we have. All of these things are habenula triggers, almost like our whole society is a one big fat habenula trigger. And what you're talking about is the antidote to that.
And 'twas ever thus, right? I mean, I think Barbara Fredrickson's work, Ed Diener's work on what's the point of positive emotions? What's the point of any positive emotion? And I love their framing of it's around broadening and building. It is around this, and I need to learn more about what your work and Habenula, because that's so interesting as to like why love, like what does it do for us? It's clearly a valuable thing because from a evolutionary psychological standpoint, it must have served some incredibly valuable purposes for us.
Yeah.
And for us to unpack those as we think about our own personal success, as
Mhm.
we think about us maxed, to use the term of the day, um, and and of course then to extend that to our businesses. This doesn't mean, I mean, I keep saying this in terms of this book and this work, it's like love is not a coating.
Yeah.
It is not a coating of niceness. It's an ingredient. And what you were just describing is the sort of biochemical ingredients in our brain that love does for us. It's also an ingredient that what's curious, I think, is love it. We recognize it. I've been doing this exercise with like tens of thousands of people in these big sort of auditoriums. I've just given them paddles of like loving, unloving. And I know we're all different, and then just put pictures on screens like of companies or of the DMV or of there's all sorts of things. And it's like we know what love looks like. We know what loving looks like. We know what unloving looks like. And
Yeah.
unloving doesn't just look like a bunch of people arguing with each other, like lost people, lonely people, people by themselves. If you just one picture of a person sitting alone in a restaurant, and you go loving or unloving, everybody's everybody's got the unloving paddle up. Like we know what that looks like. Um, we recognize love as a incredibly productive, attractive human experience. And it can be in an email from your insurance carrier. It can
Mhm.
be in a phone call from your car lease company at the end of your lease. Or it can be in your sunscreen commercial that you see in a magazine. We know what loving is. It's funny. We know what it looks like, and we know when it's absent. And if we want to, going back to the first story I was telling, like Pablo Neruda saying, he actually says, love is born in savoring, it lives in intelligence, and it dies from neglect.
Mm.
That's that's the three-line stanza of that poem.
Wow.
It lives in savoring. So the first place where y you've gotta pay attention to it. You gotta see it where it shows up. You gotta say loving and that and almost the point of the whole book was to say, from now on, put that lens on and just go loving, unloving. When something feels weird, it's because it's unloving. When that email felt weird, it was unloving. When that
Mhm.
that DMV line felt as unloving. Now, we doesn't mean everything has to be loving, but let's call it what it is. It's the whole
Yeah.
Socratic thing of y calling something by its real name is the beginning of wisdom.
I
Well,
love that.
there's a lot of stuff that's unloving. That
Mhm.
Oracle email that came out where they laid off 30,000 people at
Oh
6
my
AM,
god.
that was
Oh,
unloving.
yes,
Now,
very.
therefore, by the way, stupid,
Yeah.
and even though Oracle shares are through the roof today, bad business. Like, who
Yeah.
wants to go to work at Oracle?
Yeah.
Disgraceful. It's
Right.
unloving. What Meta's doing right now, where it's surveilling its people to figure out how to train its AI, unloving. You could do it. Could we do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it massively exploitative? Not necessarily. Is it unloving? It's unloving. You wanna be unloving? Okay, let's call it what it is. What you're doing right now is let's all raise our hands. Let's do something unloving, shall we? Shall we? Yeah, let's do it. And
Yeah.
what we need to have is a frame of reference which goes, when we do that, we are destroying value.
Yeah.
Oh, please don't say we're not. We're destroying value.
Yeah.
So we need a kind of framework that just goes loving, unloving, because we know what loving looks like. We just haven't called it by that name. And that's a shame because it lives in savoring,
Yeah.
or rather, it's born in savoring. And then obviously we got to build it intelligently. We got to, how do you build more loving experience for your customers? How do you build more loving experience for your employees? That's not obvious, but it doesn't happen at all if you don't savor it, if you don't pay attention to it.
I think that's such a powerful tool, by the way. I'm not a fan of dichotomies. I think very few things are helpful as dichotomies. In this case, I think you got it right. Normally I like spectra, I think that as I tried on that tool in my head, I was like, yeah, I could at any point tell my experience at least that that was loving or unloving from my perspective. And so I wanna end on one thing because I think there's a dilemma, as business leaders that kinda goes along the, firing people topic, if we can kinda land on that. And my experience always, and I swear I am not virtue signaling right now, but my experience always from the very first time I had to fire anybody ever as a leader was, I wish I could tell them how much I care about them and that be okay in that moment, and you can't. You just can't. Like, there's I have, shared my authentic feelings, of, like, I really believe in you, and this is not for you, right now, it's not working out, and, I anything I can do for you, please let me know, I wanna help you in the future, that kind of thing. Um, those kinds of things I can say, but I feel like almost there's these kind of like HR handcuffs of what you can and can't say so as not to get too mushy or too it can be perceived in that moment when somebody's in pain of, you know, suspicion, it breaks trust to fire somebody. And I guess I just have to sit with, as many leaders do, the feelings of like, I really care about somebody. I really do have love for them. And I want them to have love and I want them to have success. And I've got to do this really, really harmful in the moment to them thing. And there's no way to be a good guy when you're in that, kind of bad guy seat in that way. So what are your thoughts about that dilemma that leaders face?
Well, I hear you. I've fired lots of people. It's so difficult. It's a horrible feeling. Um, but I wonder whether one of the reasons why, I mean, look, some part of this is because of the HR is the bastard love child of legal and human development. And so, right, some part of HR is to help humans grow, and some
Yeah,
part of HR is to protect the company from the people.
and that's a weird combination.
It is, and you can see there's a lot of CHROs that now report up through the general counsel. There's a lot of CHROs that came up through the legal side of that bastard child. And therefore, they get confused as to what you can and can't say and how we need to keep our distance from our people, and that the best leaders need to maintain their objectivity because otherwise you can't fire people, like all of that stuff. It's the Adam Grant thing of like, you shouldn't call people family at work because you're gonna have to fire them. It's not family. And it's like, oh, Adam, just try to run a business, and then we should talk, because it's the best leaders get really close to their people. The best leaders do love their people.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean they don't have tough conversations. So I think part of your challenge is that it's just difficult. But
mhm,
another part of your challenge is that we've become confused as to what we say when we say, I love you. I
mhm.
want you to flourish. I want you to feel more fully yourself. I have love for you as a human. Now, there's some people that don't, and that's okay. You're not going to be a great leader. That's okay. Um, I started the book with Josh D'Amaro, who, when I was doing the research for the book, was just an executive at Disney. And now, I mean, I'm very interested that a very sophisticated board has chosen to make him the new CEO of Disney.
Mm,
He's a loving leader. He's down on his haunches. He's
mm,
he's hugging his people. He's remembering. And it's not hail fellow, well met, wooing. It's like he's the real deal. The interesting thing about firing someone is, the best examples of those conversations I've ever had are the ones where you have the language to be able to say, I put you in this role and it's not going to, your instinctive patterns aren't the patterns that I need for this role. That doesn't mean that you don't have valuable patterns. It means the patterns don't fit. Patterns don't fit. And
Mhm.
it's not loving for me to leave you in it because you're going to keep moving. It goes back to what no matter how comfortable your job is, you're going to have to get out of it. And at some point, you're going to have to get out of it into a different job. And sometimes that's you. Sometimes that's you telling me that you're in the wrong role. And that's okay. God love you. But sometimes it's me coming in and saying, get out of bed.
Mhm.
You're in a comfortable spot, but the patterns that I see are not the patterns that I need for the job. That doesn't mean the patterns are bad patterns. It means they're your patterns and they're not going to add value in the job that I put you in, which either means I got to change the job or I'm going to keep the job. And I'm going to say to you, this job doesn't fit you. And the loving thing to do is to have a very difficult conversation with you. That is the loving thing to do. So
Mhm.
I love the adverb of lovingly. What does it mean to do anything lovingly? Well, it doesn't mean to let someone languish in a job where they're mediocre and you see it and you see it first. That's not
Yeah.
loving. That's
Yeah.
actually unloving in the binary world. The dichotomy. That's unloving. I mean, it's easy, but it's unloving. So I think the only way to integrate your challenge there is to go the way to fire anyone lovingly is to do it in the context of how can that person become more fully themselves over time.
Yeah.
This job will not let them do that. Now you have to make that decision. You as the boss, you have to make that. But this job will not help them be more fully themselves over time. Therefore, what? Oh well, I'll leave them in because they're not terrible. And where are they going to go? And you could do that. That's not loving.
No.
You can call it 17 other things, but it's not loving. Why? Because that person's not going to evolve to be more fully themselves over time. You got to get them in a place where they can do a bit of that. And they're
Yeah.
right now in a job where they can't do a bit of that. Now,
Right.
you could be wrong about that decision. Like, you can reevaluate, blah, blah, blah. But the way to fire lovingly is to frame it around, will this person be more fully themselves over time in this role? If the answer is no, the loving thing to do is move them out of it.
Yeah.
And tough luck if it's hard. You got
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, with that, I learned so much. And the timing of this conversation is just, I can't tell you how synchronistic that is for my life and for my business and all of that. I really hope that everybody listens to you. I am really firm on that. Everybody needs to learn from you. Everybody needs to listen to you. Marcus, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, gosh, thank you so much for having me. I loved it.